Thank you, Zainab. Thank you for being here. I'm going to talk about humanizing technology, humanizing information technology, humanizing artificial intelligence technology, humanizing AI. Coming to Bilbao a few days ago, I had not in mind to have a speech here with this as a title. In fact, I prepared a different speech for you. A speech on the importance of developing AI technology, in the spirit of Paulo Freire, the influential Brazilian thinker, educator, change maker, community builder. But in the past few days, having had many conversations with some of you here, I realized one thing, and that's the question that I should address here today with you is not how we should develop AI, but should we develop AI at all? Should we use AI at all? So instead of giving a presentation to you that I prepared and planned, I take the moment here to reflect a bit with you on the conversations that I had in the past few days. What I would like you to do, let me start with the takeaways. Basically, the reflections, the takeaways from the conversations that I had with you in the past few days. The first one is that most of you are aware of the fact that AI is permeating society. It is shaping our daily lives. It is bringing ease, much ease. Think about your phones, full of AI technology. The second point that I would like to communicate to you, reflection, is that many of you are concerned about the harms that AI can bring. Misinformation, bias, discrimination, hate, violence, and so on. The third point is that most of you, have serious doubts about whether we can humanize or socialize AI. So what I would like to do for a minute with you is to ask you questions. I would like you to reflect for a minute on two questions. The first question is the following. If AI is capable of adopting unwanted human behavior, have we not already then humanized AI a bit? Could you think about that? And could you please raise your hands if you think the answer to this question is yes? Thank you. The second question. If AI can adopt unwanted human behavior, can it not also adopt human virtues, values, dignity, compassion, love, well-being, equity? Who thinks the answer is yes? So, before going to my next slide, let me tell you a bit of the things that I have done in the past. So I've been working in the field of AI for the past 30 years. And more than a decade ago, I started to think and work on the potential harms of AI, in particular AI and bias. And when I attended people on these potential harms, there were a few that took me seriously. Nowadays, a lot of people are concerned with AI and bias on a daily basis. And what I see happening now is a similar development. I'm focusing much more, in my current research and work, on the potential positive aspects of AI, using AI for the social good, using AI to advance society in a more just and in a more inclusive manner. People question this. People question whether that's possible. So my answers to these two questions is, as you might guess, yes, we have humanized AI to some degree. In fact, it has taken a lot of our worst impulses over. And yes, AI can adopt human virtues, values, dignity. And my position is that it's our duty to develop AI, to use AI in order to promote and to propagate these values: compassion, love, well-being, equity. But we don't know how to do it. We just don't know how to do it. And that's, in a sense, because we have not learned that AI can be used as an enabler of good human values, virtues. The early adopters of AI, and especially big tech, in a way, have corrupted and hijacked our minds and hearts when it comes to technology. And I think we need to liberate ourselves. We need to develop a new perspective, a new paradigm when it comes to AI. And in order to do that, I think it's important that we embrace the unknown. That we embrace the unknown, but use principled choices in doing so, while doing so. And let me share with you 5 principles that I think are important in humanizing AI. The first principle, plan and purpose, is about the why of AI. Why do we develop AI? A lot of AI technologies are currently developed with the objective to maximize profit, to minimize effort. Human values, equity, compassion, well-being should be the explicit optimization goals of AI technologies and AI systems. We should develop AI with human virtues and values as the core element, and it can be done. Sometimes it's even a matter of adjusting a few formulas, a few codes, in order to optimize compassion. The second principle, people and perspectives, is about the who of AI. Who develops AI? Is there representation? Is there inclusivity? What we see often is a mismatch between those that develop AI and those upon whom AI is used. I think AI should be used always, or developed always, in teams of people with diverse backgrounds, professionally, personally. Interdisciplinarity and diversity are essential. The third principle, past and present, is about the what of AI. What data do we use to train, develop AI technologies? What you often see happening is that data in certain places of the world or from certain times, certain population groups are used to develop AI and then used on other population groups in other places. For example, mental health data from the global north used to develop AI systems to help people in the global south with mental health issues. I think this is a disaster. I think this is a recipe for disaster. Right? Locality and granularity are key. They matter. Locality and granularity of data matter. Principle 4, processes and procedures, is about how of the AI. How do we develop AI? Is there transparency? Is there accountability? And often that's not the case. Governments around the world, corporations around the world claim to be transparent, claim to be accountable, but they are not. Take as an example the Dutch child benefit scandal. The tax office in the Netherlands used an AI system to flag people that are accused of fraud. It used a system that falsely accused thousands and thousands of parents and caregivers of child benefit fraud, falsely. And most of these people were people from ethnic minority groups or low-income families. They've been discriminated and chased after for years by the Dutch government. This scandal brought down the Dutch government. But lessons have not been learned, despite the fact that people called for transparency, called for change. Little happened, despite the fact that the government failed on this issue. The last dimension that I think is important, is essential, is participation and praxis. This is about the whom of AI. Are those people for whom AI is developed, are they involved in the creation of AI? Are they involved in the process of creation of AI? They are the ones that experience it, so they are the ones who can correct the systems, who can clean the system, who can remove the biases, the hate, and so on. Outreach and co-creation are vital. I think that these 5 principles help me, and hopefully also others, to humanize AI technology, to humanize AI. And I see it happening many places. These principles taken seriously and efforts being made to realize them, but often in isolation. So some organizations focus on improving their processes. Some organizations focus on making sure that the data is representative and inclusive. Some work on the diversity of people that work on AI. I think in order to make sustainable change in thinking about AI and working with AI, these dimensions need to be taken all together. There needs to be a holistic approach to these dimensions. Let me end with an appeal. The AI community alone is not capable of humanizing AI. It's not capable of humanizing technology. It needs help. It needs help from critical thinkers. It needs help from other communities, communities such as you, communities that are involved and concerned about love, kindness, compassion, not getting enough attention. So I hope that you give AI a chance, and I ask you to help humanize AI. Thank you very much.